Hey, what's up guys, Arab here, and welcome back to a brand new video here today, and welcome to some F1 2019 predictions here today in this video. I thought it'd be quite fun to make a video like this at the very start of the season, just about 1 week before the Australian Grand Prix round 1 of the 2019 Formula 1 season, and then we could come back to this video maybe all the way, in December basically, and see how we did, and kind of react to these predictions and how wildly off they may be really in reality, because these things never go really that well, I think, in reality. But I have been known to predict a few little things in Formula 1 before quite correctly, a few years ahead of time, so we'll see how well I can do for just 1 year in 2019 and predict the Drivers' Championship in terms of like the top 6 I'm going to go for, top 7 maybe, and then the team order, all 10 teams, and then a few different other categories like a surprise win, surprise podium, surprise results, perhaps even like that, just basically covering all bases of what, we think might occur over the season. So let me know, guys, in the comments below as well, along with that, what your predictions are for each of the different categories in the comments below. It'd be really nice to see a whole different list and see how people are different in terms of the way they want to go about it. And yeah, that might actually spark some conversation, obviously, for you guys in the comments below if you kind of, see each other's predictions, essentially. But we can get into this then, predictions. So we're going to start off with the team one, I think, because really the drivers can be affected by how good the team is, of course. If you don't have the car, you can't really win races and win championships if you don't have a good car underneath you. So I'll do the team predictions first. So the 10 teams in what order I think. Now, I'm basing this off what we've seen in pre-season testing so far, which you can never really, go into because, we saw last year Mercedes were only 5th fastest in pre-season testing. They rocked up and got pole by so much. But, there are inklings of, how the car handles, seeing it with my own 2 eyes as well, because, of course, you guys know I went to day 1 of testing with Alfa Romeo Racing, and so I could see some of the cars in person, see how well they stuck to the track, and just I have a little inkling into maybe how the car kind of looks around there. And then obviously just all the analysts and the pundits, talking about, what's gone down. So a bit of a cobble of logic and also a little bit of heart as well, of course, because there's kind of things I hope are going to go the way just to spice things up. But so my predictions, we're going to start from the bottom and work our way to the top. So in P10, it's got to be obviously Williams. I don't think you can't not predict Williams at the bottom. They delayed, the delay got to testing. The car, George Russell's literally said in interviews, it's going to be off the pace. So they made huge progress, but it's still way off the pace. So I don't think there's any way Williams won't be last place. I think it will take a literal miracle for them not to be in P10. P9, I'm going to go for Toro Rosso because generally, even though Toro Rosso have looked pretty handy actually in testing, Albon and Kvyat seeing some decent times here and there, Toro Rosso, it's been historic that they start off great and then they just don't continue that over the season. Like, they make good cars at the very start of the season, but then they don't have the resources or the budget, or I don't really know. They've never really been able to keep up with their midfield counterparts over the course of the season. We've seen it so many times. Just take last season, Gasly, I think the only great result in the back end of the season was Hungary, but that was a bit of a different circumstance because Hungary is a very unique circuit. A lot of other teams can also do very well at the Hungarian Grand Prix. But apart from that, we had Bahrain, which was a crazy result, but they really just go down the order. And the same thing was in a case in point when Verstappen was back in Toro Rosso. And just, if you look back at the history of Toro Rosso, they've just really never been able to have that prolonged thing. So I think eventually they'll be P9. I think they might start off surprising some people. I think the Honda engine has developed quite a fair bit. So I think they could be strong at the start, but I'm going to peg them to be P9 by the time we end this thing. In P8, I'm going to go for Haas F1, which is maybe a disservice to them compared to last season, how they did. But you know what? They've got that backing of Rich Energy, which is all well and good. Well, less said about that, the better, in terms of how you think, legit you think that backing is. But from pre-season testing, they've had a lot of issues, and it seems to me, I got the inkling that they're going to be the same team they were kind of last year, a bit bipolar in a way, in terms of just being so on and off, in terms of they might turn up to one race and be really good, and then turn up to another and be really off. And I think consistency of other teams like Racing Point and McLaren and Alfa Romeo are going to win over, and I think Haas are set for a bit more of a difficult year than they'd want to. I don't think they'll be able to make that step and continue attacking Renault and, keep it in that kind of P4, P5, 6 fight, because I think they'll drop away a little bit just due to consistency and also the budget and the kind of resources Renault poured into it, and how other teams are going to improve, I think, this season. We're going to go for P7. I'm going to say Racing Point, but I got to say this is close for me, because I'm going to say McLaren is P6. I think it's very close between McLaren and Racing Point. McLaren has clearly made a step forward, but I don't think it's a huge one. I mean, we've had a few little inklings of people suggesting they are much better than last year, but if you look at the corrected fuel loads and actually the kind of longer runs, all the pundits are saying McLaren still don't look really the part on the longer runs. They did a lot of glory runs in preseason, i.e., low fuel runs to get the times done, but I really don't think they're going to make that huge step forward to be back to kind of, well, not even where they were. They're kind of just not at the back like they were at the very end of last season. So I think McLaren and Racing Point are quite close. Racing Point, they've had a difficult year. Obviously, they've got that new financial backing, but it doesn't really kick in yet until later on this year. They turned up to preseason testing with not all the parts of their 2019 car. Perez even admitted it was kind of a B-spec almost car coming for Australia because that car really wasn't the race spec. So we'll see about them. Obviously, Racing Point, though, I got to admit, in the past, I've not been amazingly soft spot for Force India, to be honest. I don't really care too much, but at the same time, it's cool to see them do well, but in the end, I don't really care too much about them. But one thing I've got to hand to them, they're always, just there. They're all just there picking up the pieces. You've seen Perez pick up so many random podiums, along the way in Force India, or as it obviously was called, and now Racing Point. And Lance Stroll, yeah, he's a pay driver, but he's there still because he's fast-ish to kind of get some sort of results, and obviously he did get a podium in Baku, so there's that. So I think they're going to be there or thereabouts, and I think that it could be quite a very close one with McLaren. And to be fair, to be honest, it seems like from preseason testing and what all the analysts are saying and all the team principals are saying, I think the midfield fight between Toro Rosso, Haas, Racing Point, McLaren, and Alfa Romeo is going to be very close. I think we're looking at maximum maybe 4, 5 tenths in it, really, if that. I think there's some other people doing preseason testing on the coverage of Sky and stuff. They're talking about literal few tenths, so that's gonna be a close one. And then I'm gonna say P5 is gonna be Alfa Romeo. We've seen them turn up with a very extreme front wing. Now I will have a caveat: they could easily be lower than McLaren Racing Point depending on how they turn up to Australia, because in second week of testing, the upgrades they brought on the car did not work the way they wanted to. Their car looked a lot more comfortable in week 1 compared to week 2, and reports are saying they're going to travel to Australia with their week 1 package. So that's up in the air a little bit, but they've got that really extreme front wing. They've got, and if that is a silver bullet, that could be a major thing. They've got Raikkonen, who I think Raikkonen is going to thrive in Alfa Romeo, not having the shackles of Ferrari, and I think I'm going to peg him to have some surprise results, really. And so I think they can do some great work. So I'm going to say P5, but again, it's so close. You could intertwine that with McLaren Racing Point, even Haas potentially. Renault, I think they're going to be in no man's land in P4. I think they'll be, decent enough ahead of the other midfield pack, but not anywhere near Red Bull, I don't think. They've talked about putting the house on if this was a project of building a house, they said this year was putting on the roof, but the signs haven't been there in preseason testing that they've made that step to bridge the gap, really. So I think they're going to be a solid P4. I'm going to say, unfortunately, Red Bull P3, because even Christian Horner, or I think it was Helmut Marko, said we can win 7 races this season, which I just thought that's just not good enough for a title challenge, is it? 7 races winning, that's basically what they had last year in a way, what they're aiming for last year. And so I think Red Bull, unfortunately, as much as I would love to see that Red Bull Honda partnership work an absolute dream in the first year, I think it's still going to take maybe a year or two for Red Bull Honda to really climb up there. I think they can eventually climb back up with Honda developing really well with Red Bull's help and kind of having that unison and package. But this year, I see them having some good races, some really good performances when the Honda package is working very well for them, and obviously their car suits the circuit as well, aerodynamically and chassis-wise, but I just don't see them having a consistent challenge on the title. And now, the 2 big ones. I'm going to say, and it's reading a lot into preseason, yeah, and we've done it before, but I have a different feeling this time. Last year, I didn't feel good about it. 2017 was a good year for Ferrari, and usually Ferrari have one good year, one bad year, one good year, one bad year, and I wrote Ferrari off a little bit. I was like, I'm not convinced in 2018, and you know what? They took the fight to Mercedes still again at the very beginning of the season, and for most of it, basically, if it wasn't for mistakes by the team or Vettel and whatnot. But this year is different. They genuinely look like they have a really good atmosphere. You got Leclerc coming in with fresh blood. Vettel looks pretty good and comfortable in the car. His fastest lap in that Ferrari, he wasn't even really bothered with the lap, and it was such a good lap time, and the car looks so stable and planted. So I'm going to say Mercedes P2, Ferrari P1. They finally win a constructors title for a long while. But obviously I might have just jinxed that. But that honestly is my feeling. My gut feeling is I think Ferrari are going to finally crack it and finally do this thing. I think Leclerc being there as well to score very decent points alongside Vettel, or even maybe rivaling him a little bit, I think is going to be the thing they finally need to crack that constructors. So let's go to the Drivers' Championship then. We're going to go from... should we go from P6? We'll go from P6. So P6, I'm going to say Valtteri Bottas. You know, I know it's going to be Valtteri 2.0. He feels recharged. I'm just sorry to any Finn fans out there, but I'm just not convinced. Bottas just really, he shouldn't even be in the car, in my opinion. I think Esteban Ocon deserves that seat. I'm sorry if you think otherwise, but obviously you can disagree with me. Let me know in the comments below, but I just think P6 for Valtteri Bottas. P5, I'm going to go with Pierre Gasly, purely because... even though I have a soft spot for Gasly, I do like him as a person, as a driver. You know, I want him to do well. But over the course of the season, I think Verstappen will have him, but not as much as people think. That's the only caveat, is I think that, you know, a lot of people are saying that Verstappen's going to basically slap Gasly up. I think Gasly will surprise Verstappen in a few places here and there. But over the course of the season, I think Gasly will ultimately have to be second to Verstappen in the championship. So I'm going to say Gasly P5. P4, it's going to be Max Verstappen. Of course, if I'm saying Red Bull third place, then Verstappen really can't be any higher than maybe fourth, really. Maybe, you know, maybe it's a case of Verstappen does really well, Gasly does poorly, and that's how they can be third place but still be in those positions. But I think Verstappen P4, it would be amazing to see him actually fight for a title finally. But this year, I just don't think that it's that classic Red Bull promise of the last few years. I just don't think they've made that step again, but I hope they can do in the next few years. We've got Charles Leclerc, I'm going to say, in third place, Lewis Hamilton in second, and then Sebastian Vettel in first place. Because the Ferrari car is good this year, the good vibes are there. I feel like Vettel... I don't know. I want to say now, third time lucky. This is the one where he gets it finally, and he does the job with Ferrari. Now, obviously, you can't count out Lewis Hamilton. The thing is, Hamilton has been on another level in the last few years. Last year, he was a machine so many times. You know, especially in qualifying, it was just his day, and you just can't count him out. It's so tough, but I just got to feel like, you know, if I'm saying Ferrari are going to be one, then I think Vettel will finally crack the hump and get that title with them. Obviously, a lot of people are kind of, you know, throwing in Leclerc's going to really rustle Vettel up. I think Leclerc will rustle him up a little bit, but I think over the course, that experience and the seniority will weigh out, and I think Vettel will be the lead man at Ferrari this year, even though I think Leclerc will be very close. I think that third place for Leclerc will involve a decent amount of wins, and actually a few times trumping Vettel in a few races. But over the course of the season, I still think Ferrari will eventually funnel stuff towards Vettel in terms of, you know, what the better strategy is for Vettel. Because if that scenario happens, you know, we're halfway through the season, I think even Mercedes do that as well. It's a no-brainer. If there's that scenario of you've got one driver ahead, one guy behind, as a team boss, I would say you've got to logically try and funnel it a bit towards the number one guy in the lead. So I'm going to say Vettel first place for that one, but I could be completely wrong. Obviously, I would not be surprised if Hamilton came out again and banged in another championship, because the man's been on fire lately. You know, he's really dominated so much in his V6 era, and he's been the man to beat. Simple as that. And I'm going to go for a P7 prediction as well. Best of the rest. Last year was Hülkenberg that came P7. I'm going to say, despite Renault, I think, being no man's land P4, I'm going to say Kimi Raikkonen is going to get P7. I think he's going to genuinely do some really good results and do enough to just pip someone like Hülkenberg or Ricciardo to P7. I think it'll be close between him and Ricciardo and Hülkenberg, but I'm going to bag Kimi. You know, I've said a lot of bad stuff towards Kimi in the past because, you know, of the whole Ferrari situation, but I've never actually had too much bad blood with him just as a driver. It's more just the situation of him at Ferrari where it frustrated me. So as a driver now, individually, away from Ferrari, no shackles there, with Alfa Romeo now, I think he's going to do bits. I think he'll get P7. So now I'm going to go through a few other scenarios and let me know what your predictions, guys, are of these. We're going to go for surprise podium. I'm going to say Daniel Ricciardo. Go on, the lad. The lad's going to finally get Renault Renault a podium for a long time coming. I don't think Holcomb's going to be the one to do it. Sorry, Nico, but I think Daniel will be the one to get the surprise podium for Renault at some point. You know, I'm seeing probably something goes off, the race kicks off, maybe a crash or two, and Ricciardo gets that podium. Surprise result, I'm going to say Raikkonen gets a P4 or either like a P4 or P5, or I don't think a podium, but a P4, P5. I think Raikkonen will spring up, have a really good strategy. We've seen Sauber, or Alfa Romeo rather now, as they've been named, but in the past, Sauber have been known to try a few really out there strategies that pan out sometimes. I think Raikkonen could try that and get a surprise result like a P4 somewhere in the season. I'm going to go for surprise point is going to be George Russell. I think Williams will get a surprise points, or yeah, I would say for their sake, hopefully a few surprise points. But I think George Russell will be the one to get the first point for Williams. Despite Kubica being there, obviously a long legacy of in the past how good Kubica was. Obviously with his injury now, I just think that Russell will have, you know, the tools, I think, at his dispense to get that 1 point before. I think Kubica is going to take some time to settle in properly. I don't know. For me, I just don't see him getting that first point. I think Russell, I just have that vibe that he's going to do a surprise result and get P10 somewhere. And then finally, surprise win, I'm going to say Pierre Gasly. I think Verstappen will obviously win races, no doubt about it this season. I'm going to say, though, Pierre Gasly will get a surprise win. I think a lot of people are writing Gasly off, like I said, and I think he'll get at least one win, or I'm hoping personally a few wins along with Verstappen. But I think he'll get a surprise win. A win at a race where you just didn't think it was going to happen, and like Verstappen's just not on the pace, and Gasly is, and he gets it done. Yeah, that's my surprise win of the season there, because I don't really see any. Because if you think about it, Vettel probably win a race. Obviously, Hamilton win a race. I don't think Leclerc winning a race is a surprise. Even Bottas winning a Grand Prix, not a surprise, because he really should have won a race last season. He just bottled it, or kind of got called out of the way with team orders, or obviously got very unlucky with a puncher at Baku, was it? And then, yeah, obviously, like I said, Verstappen no-brainer. I think out of the top 6, that surprise winner is Pierre Gasly, so that's why I'm going to go for him. So those are my 2019 predictions of who will win the title, how things go, and I'm looking forward to coming back to this video all the way in December. So hello, future Arav. I hope you're having a good laugh at how wrong these predictions are, and we'll see how we go, and we'll react to this all the way in December once the season's over of these predictions. And so to that end, let me know what you guys think, because we can also react to your comments in like, you know, basically 12 months time, or not 12 months time, 8 months time. Obviously we're 3 months in to the year, 8 or 9 months time, and we can react to your predictions in the comments below. So yeah, let me know about that. But yeah, guys, if you did enjoy the video, then be sure to hit that like button, and like I said, let me know in the comments below if you are new around here to subscribe for weekly F1 content. I've been over. Have a just today, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.